Okay.
Okay, here we are, another webinar today. This one's on
COVID-19, what's been in the news for a month now at this point, I think.
Yep, and we're going to talk about deploying a mobile workforce. We've had a lot of requests from our clients. So early last week, people were saying, what happens if we need to close our office? Can we get our workforce to work remotely? It seemed premature at the time, but on the next slide, you're going to see I collected a little history off the web today. Well, actually, that was about our company, but you know about our company. So is it time to send your workforce home? And that is a good question. So here's the timeline that I was able to glean off the web. Understand this all came from the web. I am not a doctor. I'm not a World Health Organization employee, and I don't work for the CDC or the Mass Department of Health. But this is internet facts as we know it an hour ago. China announced the first case of COVID-19 discovered 12/8/2019, so last December, January, February, March, so basically 4 months ago, 3 months ago. So on 1/21, we had the first case announced in the US. So January 21, 2020, first case announced in the US. February 24, 2020, so February 24 this year, so a few weeks ago, through February 27th, Biogen, a Massachusetts-based corporation, or at least they have offices in Massachusetts, had a conference here in Boston, and 170 people attended. And so far, 70 of those attendees have been declared presumptive positive for COVID-19. So presumptive positive means that they've been tested at the state testing laboratories, but have not been confirmed by a test at the CDC laboratories. That's our understanding of that term, presumptive positive. State lab says they're positive, CDC has not confirmed. So 3/2 was the first presumptive positive case in Massachusetts. So that's March 2nd. We are now, and then the week of March 1st, so first through the 8th, at some point through there, a CVS employee who had attended the Biogen conference in Boston flew to Chicago, met with numerous people in the CVS facility or offices, from as much as I could glean from the news. Rode up and down elevators, was in conference rooms, was all over the place, flew back to Boston. So in other words, he was in and out of Logan Airport and whatever airport he flew into Chicago, and then wasn't feeling well, went and got tested, and was tagged as presumptive positive on the 8th of March. So this is just a few days ago. So this is how rapidly this thing's moving. On the 10th of March, this is yesterday, we're filming this on the 11th, Governor Charlie Baker declared a state of emergency in the state of Massachusetts. Today, the 11th, this morning, 39 states are now reporting cases. Washington State, over 200 cases. California and New York, over 100 cases. And in 10 days, Massachusetts went from 1 to 92 presumptive positive cases of COVID-19. So this thing has just exploded. Today, 3/11, as of this morning, WHO, World Health Organization, and there's the link down below where I got this information, had 118,381 cases reported worldwide, with 4,292 deaths, impacting 114 countries. And I don't know if it's just slow to be reported or it's progressing like wildfire, but I looked at the map of the United States last week, and aside from Illinois and Wisconsin, only coastal states were involved. And now all but 11 states have reported cases. So in just a handful of days, because I think I looked at the end of last week. So this is a rapidly developing situation. The governor has asked that companies don't have their employees travel, don't do any face-to-face conferences, don't fly unnecessarily, ask their staff to not fly unnecessarily. Airlines are giving rebates. It only takes one careless person to infect a whole bunch of people. So we start going through the implications, it's a question of social responsibility to not travel and to be able to have your employees work from home as necessary. Not trying to fear monger here. I'm just trying to present the facts as I've seen them develop, and I urge you to go look at the facts based on what I've shown here. So that's how we see it. We think it's going to develop faster. The pace is going to pick up, not slow down, is my guess from the rate it's progressing. The good news is it seems to have slowed dramatically in China now, so it does have a life cycle. So let's go to the next slide and see what we can do.
So I guess the big question is, what if companies have to close their doors?
So we've been helping a couple of our clients, I won't say who, prepare for the possibility that they may have to send their workforce home. If you have a company and you need to send your work staff home or your workforce home, and you have a SonicWall firewall, which almost every one of our clients do, we can enable remote access through the SonicWall. So there is some costs involved, so we can step through what's involved. And there's some bandwidth requirements. So if you have a very weak internet connection, you're not going to support 50 or 100 users from home. And your firewall has to be robust enough. So we've right-sized the firewalls for most of our clients. So for the most part, the current client's firewall should be sufficient to support their workforce remotely. So how secure will that be? Well, we are requiring, it's not a federal requirement, it's our requirement, that you turn on multi-factor authentication, MFA, also known as 2FA or two-factor authentication. Basically, it is a username, a password, and then some sort of code or token or something that's generated. I don't particularly like texts or emails. Those can be intercepted. The other thing is you might have access when you have an internet connection, but you don't have a cell phone connection. So we use a code generator. I'm not going to say which code generator, because the first rule about Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. And the first rule about security is you don't talk about your security. You just give away hints on how to bypass it. So we use a code generator along with secure passwords and usernames to get 3 factors. You have to know the username, you have to know the login, you have to know the password, and you have to have the code. So the code generators will run on any smartphone. You can run them on a laptop. We happen to like smartphones. And the users need strong passwords. So on our webinar this morning, we talked about, a sticky with password 1 on a cash register. That's not going to cut it. We're not going to help you bring risk to your organization. So we're not going to go along with lousy passwords. We're going to make them institute good passwords and good security. And we'll have to set up those users for remote access. So there is a bit of work on the backside, and the file access should be limited to as needed. And you should work with us and say, this group of employees only needs this group of employees can get at these other files. Understand that, they're operating outside of your network. So there is some other issues that we need to talk about.
This tool that you're going to talk about right now, this is something that we use every day in our company.
We do. So we do come to the office every day, but we also have the ability to work remotely every day. We could, and we've talked about it, we could be mobile in literally minutes. So most of our clients are already using Office 365. We have moved a lot of our files to the Teams infrastructure of Office 365. And matter of fact, this slideshow is in Teams. And the beauty of Teams is you can collaborate. So not only are your documents in the cloud, so you don't have to necessarily log into the office. You could log into your Teams account, again, with two-factor authentication, have secure access, use an encrypted connection. But the beauty is 2 people can edit a document, more than 2 people, but you know, it gets a little much of a free-for-all, more than 2 or 3 people. And you can collaborate and you can chat and you can video chat. So you could actually have the collaboration effect of sitting in the same office without the contamination effect of sitting in the same office, not coughing at each other. You could be sitting miles away or across the country and video chatting and editing the same file at the same time. So Teams does take a little bit to set up. The structure of it can be a little confusing. We even struggle with that a bit ourselves about what folder did I put a file in, but it's really no different than a file server. It's what folders are named and how you do it. It takes a little practice. So that's the beauty of Teams. Again, it's not, you can't set it up overnight. It does take a little work. So all this takes planning. So that's why we're trying to be out front and talk to you about this now. And that was the reason for the slide in the beginning, to show how fast this situation is progressing. So if you're going to do something like this, you can't wait until after the day you need to do it. You have to plan ahead. The last thing on Teams, which is your changes are automatically saved up to the cloud.
Yep.
So what about remote telephone service? So it's probably too late for a large company to change your phone service, but we use a product called RingCentral. And RingCentral is a cloud-based phone service. It works with regular phones. We have desktop phones, although a lot of the engineers here like to just use their cell phone. Carlos always seems to have his desktop phone unplugged. He's always on his cell phone or on his headset. So it works. You can plug a headset in the computer, run some software on the computer, answer your phone and make phone calls on the computer using your work phone number. It doesn't expose your cell phone number. You can do it on your cell phone, or you could bring a desktop phone from the office and bring it home and plug it into your network. And you could intercom. So, you know, you've worked off-site. We have a client with we have an office off-site.
Yep.
We've had our RingCentral phone plugged in there, and you and I intercom back and forth, just like we're in the same building.
Yep.
So that's another option that could be set up. It would take a week or so to set it up. It's probably not a quick fix, but if anybody's thinking about long-term remote workforce, this would be an ideal way to go. It's they're a very large, well-established corporation. A number of our clients are already using it, and we are resellers, so we could facilitate getting that purchasing, and we could bill it as part of your monthly expense.
And also, along with phones, we're doing a RingCentral meeting as well.
Yes, actually, yes, this webinar is put on by RingCentral. You can do webinars. Thank you. Good point. So how do you protect remote workers? So I think this is the hardest thing that people, you know, they've spent years protecting their network, right? They put firewalls in and they've hardened the company from the outside. And you and I just, you know, talked about earlier the anatomy of a cyber attack and how hackers are going after users now because the network is so well protected. They need to get a user to let them in the door. And this is another thing that's going to have to be thought of when you go to remote workforce. Ideally, they would be working on company-owned laptops that are fully patched Windows 10 laptops. Windows 7 is no longer supported. We mentioned before, Apple devices used to be considered the most secure or one of the least secure devices right now because they haven't paid attention to security that Microsoft was forced to. We run agents on clients' computers that contract us, so we're constantly patching and we're aware of what's going on in the machine. Any kind of personal data, medical data, financial data, all should have be on a laptop with an encrypted hard drive. If that laptop's stolen, you could, and the drive isn't encrypted, that a drive could be removed and read. If the drive's encrypted, even if the laptop's stolen, you know, they don't crack the password. They can't just take the drive out and read it. So without an encrypted drive, that's considered a breach. With an encrypted drive, still has to be reported, but the reporting can be done at the end of the year. And then we are rolling out Webroot DNS protection. So DNS is domain name services. So a lot of these schemes in phishing is they'll send you an email. We saw it with one client that had an M in their domain address, and the clever ruse was an R and an N tucked next to each other. It looked like an M, and it went on for a while where the client actually thought it was part of their domain. Luckily, the attack didn't succeed. The user caught on, but with remote DNS, even if the laptop is outside your network now, it's going to make sure that it's going to a reputable site. So, and it keeps a constant list of malicious players out there. So I would definitely institute Webroot DNS. We're rolling it out to a lot of our clients now. But definitely, when you're taking your systems outside the network, it becomes really critical to have something like that. And then just a common sense thing is really an HR thing. Make sure your employees sign an acceptable use policy of what they're going to do with that computer. You're now handing, that pretty valuable asset to an employee who may or may not have had the responsibility of a company laptop in the past. So it's definitely something you need to discuss from an HR standpoint.
Now, from a business owner, I know the coronavirus is a big question, but the next big question is, what is all this going to cost?
Yeah, so, well, I mean, the coronavirus alone is going to have a huge impact on the world economy as we see it, I think, but I'm not an economist or a doctor, so I think we've established that. So the licensing alone, to put this remote licensing on a SonicWall firewall, it breaks down, there's 5 user, 10 user, you can stack these licenses. This is pretty much 5 users would be, I think 1 user is $50, so it gets cheaper as quantity. 5 users are $215. A SonicWall comes with 1 or 2 users, depending on how big a model. 25 users, $450. 100 users, $949. So it's down to $10 a user at the 100 user mark. What we have though is the labor to set it up, and it probably, I think I have it on the next slide, of the time it takes to set it up. If it's a onesie twosie, we would probably be able to do it for you. If it's more than 5 or 10 users, it's going to be a project we would have to charge for, because, to be honest with you, we're getting swamped.
Mm-hmm.
There was the other price, which was on that back slide, was the Webroot DNS runs between, I think, $1.75 and $2 a seat, and there's a quantity discount. And as we're rolling it out, the quantity discount applies across all of our clients. So we could drive that cost down to $1.50 a seat and possibly less as we add more and more clients. And we typically, although we have to pass on rate increases, when we get that quantity discount, we usually pass that down to the client as well. So how long will it take to set this up? Well, like I said in the beginning, don't wait till the last minute, because it's not instantaneous. We support well over 1,000 users. So you can imagine if every one of our clients said, I need to go remote tomorrow, we just we would not have the capacity to handle it. We would, have to do it first come, first serve. We're already on 2 projects now. We expect to be worked through those, but you expect to take 30 minutes to an hour with each user. We have to set up the code generator on their phone. We can give them instructions to download it. You may have some particularly computer savvy staff. You may have 1 or 2 people on your staff that could go around and help people load their code generators. So it's really a ballpark on what it's going to take. For our bigger clients, we've suggested setting up conference rooms at a couple of their locations, and we'll put a staff person there. And then your staff just comes to our staff person like a remote help desk, and we just go through as many as we can. And is that, and what do we do next? If you need to get exact cost details, get on the calendar. call us 508-285-5080.
So give us a call. Don't wait until this expands, multiplies. It's already multiplying over the 10 days.
It's been declared a worldwide pandemic now by the
Yeah.
World Health Organization. You know, you see it in the movies. I never thought I would see it in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But it's here. So
No, please send any follow-up questions to marketing@atco.com. Any webinars are all going to be on our website, and please look forward to any other webinars that are going to be posted on our website under our events calendar.
and the webinar we did this morning, the anatomy of a cyber attack, that should be out there probably about the same time this one posts out there.